Hello. Okay. Thought number one. Dogs are better than a punching bag. Having something against your foot to distinguish the area that you're working in, even just stepping on a ledge, like if I go to kick from this side, and I'm gonna use this leg to kick up like that. As I step, my foot goes on that. That in and of itself prompts other muscles to work, different kinesthetic feedback. So when I go up like that, it makes me think of other muscles, more inclined to pivot off that into strike, and then feint, maybe even slide it over into a kick again. Woo! Almost died. So that's number one thought. I wanted to record that because it seems like nobody fucking understands. Nobody else has gotten that except for me. All the bags in Muay Thai gym, hard as fuck. And then you can't get into your flow because you're like, well, if I don't hit the bag hard enough to make my leg go through it, to get the sensation of the actual movement, you're not going to get it. It's like your kick has to come, your strikes come out here, but if you have to punch and you just get in here, and you have to go, just to get there, you can't ever go and realize, oh, I want these muscles right there, not there. I want right there, so I can follow up with my next one, and then like that, come over tight, like that. You can't get all that sensation, haptic feedback, all of that. You can't get it when you're punching something at full force or a really, really heavy bag. It just doesn't work the same. Flies in the house. Doesn't work the same. And I had other things I think I wanted to say, but live at that for now. I wanted to upload my other streams. I figured out a lot of stuff yesterday though. I figured out how to get my glutes under me. Think about your... Oh, fuck it. Think about your belly, right? Like your glutes are here, right? Like bring them underneath the bone in the back, like underneath, and have them like hovering, and almost I could feel it coming through the front. I could feel these muscles tensioned in a way that didn't, just from walking, that I haven't really experienced before, or I don't remember experiencing it. And the way I got there was I went, okay, my body's clearly broken. What is the optimal way? Like, feel like a superhero. It's like, what would I need to do? Because when you think you're like a superhero, you're like, ah! You're like that, right? You need to do that in real life. You need to be like, okay, I'm running. What's the optimal way for me to run right now? What would be the coolest way? Think about like you're a superhero. Like how would I move? You know, what should I move like? Because you're running and you're like, I'm getting low back pain on my right side or my left side. There's clearly tension building up. There's obviously a flaw in my form. What needs to be as strong as possible to keep me going? And it's like the calves, the glutes, the little teeny tiny muscles in there. And because we're just forced to run in tight shoes, you're like, okay, the body's like, fuck man, we're running and you're not letting me stop. Calling all support systems, diverting all the power through Jarvis to the rest of the suit. All power to thrusters. So since your body's always like that, and it's always punching the bag at full force, it can't figure out the optimal way to move, because it's just figured out on how to get to point A to point B, and that's all you learned. And that's how you move your legs. You're like, oh, I'm gonna run like this, and my hip switches around. Instead you go like, okay, you have your body, you have all your nerves, you can feel everything. What is the optimal way to run? And for me, I was like, oh, it's obviously like this. But before I couldn't do like that. I was like, obviously it's like this. It's my face again. Like you want your legs doing that. Like, look at my feet. My feet are fucked up. I had to program them again to get them working how I wanted them. And now I'm that dude that runs barefoot and I'm faster than everybody, baby. Never thought I'd be the fast one. So yeah, that's number one. I think all Muay Thai gyms should have like a soft bag. The other thing, hold on. Are we still here? The other thing, curtain is very good because you can kind of like through and then you can push it and it has that push back. So a big curtain would probably be really good, but that's why I like this because it's got weight to it, see? It's a door stopper. So I can come up like that. It's not putting shitloads of tension on my leg, and I can get the form going all the way back. I can, feint to a knee, teep, back to kick again, come around, switch, feint, cross, kick, all that on a bag. It's hard because your body will be like, okay, I'm hitting it super light and just focusing on the form, and your brain is sending energy to the part of your body like, okay, I have to fucking punch this heavy thing to get the bag to move from here to where the actual strike, where you want to feel the, but to do that you need to have the amount of power. So your body's like, okay, I don't want to hurt my shoulder, and if it's worried about all those things, it's going to default to its original pathway that you learned, because like, okay, we're actually having to hit something instead of going real slow and figuring out where to go and potentially hitting like that, and your body hasn't built up strength in those areas yet. The ligaments and all the tendons, all the connective stuff hasn't gotten strong in that point that you're hitting. Your body will default from this to like this or whatever's easier for you. It's just common sense. Did I upload everything? Hold on. Conrad again. So yeah, I kind of astounded sometimes because I feel like I got an understanding of this stuff that other people don't have. And I'm watching Knees Over Toes guy, and he's like, oh, sit in the chair. That's the other thing. Lat pull down is fucking broken. I love lat pull down. And I used to love it, and it used to fuck up my back, but you can get the same tension on a pull-up bar like that, and you just arch your back. But because, see, look, you can see my reflection, because you're like, you're stretching like that, and then your legs are bent, how fucking, you go, you're pulling down like that, how much tension do you think it is in your lower back? Your legs are at a right angle, and you're like, I'm doing this, weeks and weeks, and one slight deviation in your form, which of course everybody has, because everybody has lower back pain, because they're fucking shoes. Everybody, you talk to everybody, they're like, yeah, I have lower back pain. It's not normal. It's not normal for your lower back to have poundage in it all the time, and your own muscles can't support that. It's flawed. It's dumb. It only takes tiny little bit of tweaks to make it fine. And all those people like Bas Rutten shooting lidocaine into his shins. He learned so much about his own body, but he's doing crap like that. If anybody would have told him, Bas, just calm down, do some knees over toes, stretch your fascia out, stretch it all out. When you're doing ab exercises, doing crunch down, stretch it as far as you can, and then come in. Everything would be strong. Nobody would have problems, but I don't understand why people haven't figured that out. I don't understand why I'm the only one that seems to get that. I guess it's because what I learned from rehabbing my nerve injury, this was numb, but the rest of my body wasn't numb, but it's like I've been using it all this time and it's never got better. And you're like, oh, I guess the body can't fix itself, but your brain needs to tell it what to do. Because the body's just acting, it's just doing stuff. You have to create those pathways so they become the default. Otherwise, even though Google Chrome is there, it's going to keep using Internet Explorer because that's the strongest pathway, that's the default. You haven't set it as that yet. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Probably not, but yeah, it makes sense to me. Learned about stuff yesterday, learned about legal and ethics, beneficiary, malfeasance, veracity, maleficence, she called it. justice, all that good stuff. I want to stream. I've felt like I wanted to work out and do Muay Thai for ages and ages and ages. Feels like I finally got something that I can scratch the itch. That's the other thing. This, it's not as good as the curtain. It's not as good as this because that is too elastic. What the gold standard I think would be is hold on. It's my punching bag. That, oh no, never mind. I wanted, but of course couldn't do this. I was going to buy a mattress and cut a strip out of it because I thought mattress would be good. But I almost got robbed over a mattress. Anyway, that in the middle here, perhaps hoist it up to the roof so I could kick it and cave through and then come back. And I could get the sensation of popping it in and it would absorb my shock so it wouldn't all go into my arms like with shadowboxing. I can actually hit something and feel it come out. And that's what helps you learn if you're actually doing it or not, you know? So I would have this. I would put this, I'd put that down the side. So I would still get the elastic feeling that I enjoyed from that. But I would get the like, to go in, you know? You know? Like that, see? Knee, elbow. Could easily, see what I mean? Look, if you're on a bag, I would have had to hit that so hard and I would have been focusing on that instead of the actual form. So yeah, I think people are dumb, and I think Bas Rutten and all those people slamming their bodies into heavy bags and doing all the shit instead of figuring out that all of your learning happens in your mind. That's the other thing I learned. Stretching, it keeps the body's kinesiologic centers of the brain working. That's like, get old people with dementia, do stretches, take their body for the full range of motion. I saw the anatomy lab guy. He was talking about how he was like, how stretching changes the brain. And I always thought, I said to mum as well, I was like, I can't sit in these tight sofas with nowhere to fucking move my legs. And I can't put my arms behind my head to stretch, to emulate, you know, throwing a kick and my leg comes all the way around, all the way over there. Can't do that from here because my arm is next to my body. It needs to be at least out there so the thing is in the same position so I can work on the stuff I learned in class, you know what I mean? So I can go, my body's close enough to that position, and you rework the neural wiring in your head. It doesn't work if you sit in a chair like that. It just doesn't. I don't know why. A chair where you can't move your legs or get it even similar to how it was when doing those sports, it doesn't work. And it causes fucking pain. So I think a lot of people are fucked up because they were forced into situations like a little baby crying because you put baby shoes on it, and it never got to develop its feet properly, e.g. my foot, and people are sitting on the mat, and then you don't know how to do it. And that's why everybody who sits on the mat, they're like, oh, one light side cross-legged feels good. And if I do it on the other side, it feels like my knee's going to explode. You got to purposely retweak these positions instead of just going, oh, I sat in the knees crossed before, I know how to do that. No, approach it differently. Use different muscles, focus on it. And you can do it. There's people just going to boxing and they're just smashing it. It's like, do you not understand how good you could get? You just need to slow it down. But they already knew that, and they're like, shadow boxing, they always say, is one of the most important things that you can learn, that you can do, but they don't realize that shadow boxing like that, the reason why people don't do it is because even me, you feel stiff, you're like, oh, I'm stiff, and then I go to like my back feels stiff and I'm trying to crack it, and then I go to that and I go, and then my back just goes into the crack position because it absorbed. It's like, oh, we're not in midair, we don't have to like tighten ourselves back, we can just go like this and actually have the momentum carry through, and your back goes. Mine does, I know it does. So yeah, might sound crazy to you. Who's that other guy? Ed Cohen. There's another guy, he was talking about the neural drive, and I was listening to him talk about neural drive, how he got his body to work. And I was like, holy fuck, that makes so much sense. I was like, this guy's talking like crazy nonsense that I always spouted. But people would look at me like, huh? It makes no sense, man. But I was like, oh my God, this guy's making so much sense. He just explained it, and he's one of the great powerlifter dudes. I don't know what his name was. It wasn't Hackenschmidt, it was somebody else, but he was a good dude, like a world-class athlete guy. And he understands his body the same way I do, or similar to. And it was very, very, very interesting hearing him talk. And I was like, everybody's going to understand what I know now. I looked at the comments, they're like, he's talking nonsense. Like, I don't understand any of this. I was like, oh my God, it makes total sense to me. And I got it, and I'm like, it's crazy. All my back pains and all this stuff, like, maybe this was fate. Maybe this is fate all along, so I could figure it out. Because I think if you put me into anybody's body, you could fix it. I could fix it. I could just, because going from my broken body and going into how I know it and now it feels now, I think I could get in there and figure out the deficiencies in their neural connections between their bodies, and I could rehab it, I could get them stronger. What else can I think of? Yeah, because if I go back into my old brain when I was doing my Muay Thai kicks, and I was like, oh my God, my knee was busted, I couldn't keep kicking because it was going to fuck it up. It's almost like it's like I've got less connections in my right leg, and I'm focusing through the hamstring. So when I was just kicking, it was like, oh, doof. So like this part was dead, and it was just going like that. Now I lead with this, and this part goes dead. So it's like, you know what I mean? It's like this part is glowing yellow in my brain, and this is dead. It's like, and you go in like that instead of, all my neural connections was based on the back. So I would just go like, I'd be like, oh, it hurts my fucking knee. I wonder why. I don't understand. And it's so dumb in hindsight. So yeah, Knees Over Toes guy, the Bioneer, Scott University, they all taught me so much, but I think I know more than especially Knees Over Toes guy. I think Knees Over Toes guy had something happen to his legs or something, or he was locked in a shitty seating position in school, and as he was growing and his body was getting longer and developing, he was just stuck like this for every hour of every day, so he couldn't figure out how to move his body, and that's why I think he had so many knee surgeries. Something happened. Because the body knows how to move. If you give it a chance and give it room to move, but people don't have that chance. They're stuck in school, and then they're in a house like this, and there's stuff everywhere, and there's nowhere to like go and stretch, and go your arms behind your head like this. Can't do that behind your head. So then people get shoulder problems. And even like a little kid, you're like, going down the stairs, you're like, you do that, your arm is stretched, your shoulder. Imagine every time you went down the stairs, you did that. Do you think you'd have weak shoulders? No. The person that doesn't do that and goes, oh, this is a child thing, I don't do that, plays for kids. Those are the people with chronic shoulder issues. Those are the people that don't know how to move their bodies. And those are the people who only have one connection for a lot of their things. Only one connection, only one way of how to move their hand that they developed as a milestone, as a child, picking things up. Their left hand never came close like mine did, because they never ever tried. They went, my right hand's better, my left hand's worse, I'm never going to try to make it better. It can't get better. It can. You just never learned, and you never put the effort in, and you just were working on the neural framework that your brain, it's not the right word I want to say, but that your brain had developed at the very start, and you just went with it. You're like, oh, this is how we move our hands. If you focus on it, I lost my train. That's right. Yeah, people with dementia, they're like, oh, I only have this, and it goes, she was weight bearing, she was walking, and then one day she became bedridden. It's like, because that person never went, okay, I learned how to walk, la la la. How do I walk better? How do I walk? How do I do this? They didn't enhance and build onto the coordination. They went, we can walk, la la la, we're going to have this forever, never strengthen neural connections, never exercise, never get oxygen flow to the brain, never vasodistrict, exercise, cardio, stretches the veins, never do that, brain gets clogged, veins stay like this forever, drink alcohol, barely sleep, do the same activity, be a teacher since you're 20 or 30, till you're 90, and then you get dementia, and you wonder why. It makes too much sense to me right now. Makes too much sense, and I think I can cure it. I think maybe not cure it, because it's hard enough to teach people now, but in teaching a person like that, but I think if I keep doing this, if I keep figuring out new ways to move my body, because what was I thinking of? Yeah, maths. How typing is like a whole new, like a new era of human endeavor in your brain. Like your brain creates a framework for it. your brain humans can adapt to like everything. It can adapt to anything. Technology that we haven't even comprehended now. That could be your thing, you know? Maverick Top Gun. You could be the Maverick Top Gun of an X-Wing fighter or some sort of weird technology thing that we can't even comprehend right now. We can't even fathom it. But once it's invented and we can use it, we can wrap our head around it. You know what I mean? They say wrap your head. You create a neural framework in your brain for how to access these things, how to use them. And I think if you never develop new ones and you're like, okay, this is just one way to use my hand. I'm never going to learn how to play guitar like this. Hell, even switching sides and playing guitar like that, that'll probably be that's so hard to do. But if you tried to rewire that side, so you could get, because people say it's impossible to play like that. Like go from this to like this, to switch the other side. But if you got good at that, you could go, okay, I can switch my hands to the other side. You'd be able to apply that skill to anything. You'd be able to use your other leg differently, instantaneously. But people never do that. They just go, oh, it's too hard. I play like this. It's impossible. It's hard for me. And this one's easier for me, so I'm just going to keep doing that. And then you're dead. The people that don't get dementia, I think they figured out something like I did. You got to keep using your brain, but not just using your brain, challenging it and making it work in ways that you can't even comprehend right now, that you can't even fathom. That when someone explains it to you, like, huh? You need a chance to wrap your head around it until it starts to make sense. And once you realize that, something can become familiar to you that was so foreign. And it doesn't just have to happen during childhood. It can happen any time. You just have to put the stimulus in. But people, when they're children, they get sent everywhere and then they adapt to things. They go, I'm scared of this, I don't know how. And then they learn. And then it becomes familiar. And then they don't want to try anything else because that's their familiar thing. But they forgot they were forced into that initially. Anyway, I think I could prevent a lot of disease. And I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it for myself first. And I have a feeling I would never get dementia now. I used to worry before. It feels like I've transcended. My brain knows what to do now. It knows how to keep itself strong. It knows which mechanisms to squeeze. Same with the power clean. I can just do that now. I only learned it briefly. It's just amazing. It's amazing how much the mind can do. It's amazing how people never figured it out. Or like people figured it out and would have been lost to the sands of time. But now in this modern age, it's a glorious thing. We get to share all these things with each other. And I actually think right now, it's one of the